"Madam, don't open that car door." The plea sliced through the sharp afternoon breeze, urgent and raw. Elise Warrick paused, her fingers grazing the sleek chrome handle of her sedan, the world around her fracturing for a heartbeat. The city's pulse-distant wails of sirens, the hum of traffic, the whisper of wind through urban canyons faded into silence, leaving only that frantic, trembling voice. Her two security guards, clad in dark suits, reacted in unison. They zeroed in on the source, a man in a faded gray janitor's uniform, his face ghostly pale, glistening with sweat. He had erupted from a service door, a specter emerging from the glass and steel of the Warrick Enterprises tower. His eyes, wide with terror, locked onto her. "Stay away from it," he begged. One guard, Holt, barked a sharp command, his voice a deep rumble, positioning himself as a barrier between Elise and the stranger. The second guard seized the janitor, twisting him around and pinning him against the building's limestone facade. The man's breath escaped in a pained wheeze as a ring of keys clattered to the ground. "Don't let her get in," the janitor rasped, straining to keep Elise in his sight. "Please, you mustn't." Elise's shock hardened into cold frustration. She was already running 12 minutes late for an unmissable, highly confidential meeting. This interruption was intolerable, a failure. "Holt," she snapped, her voice cutting like a blade. "What is this about?" She withdrew her hand from the car door as if it burned. "Who is this man?" "Ethan Cole, ma'am," Holt replied, his eyes sweeping the street, the rooftops, every parked vehicle, his hand hovering near his jacket's inner pocket. "Night shift maintenance. He's unhinged." The other guard grunted, yanking Ethan's arms behind his back. "No." Ethan's voice broke. "Hear me out, just for a moment. That car, it's not safe." The word lingered, heavy and ominous. Safe. In Elise Warrick's world, it was a term filtered through layers of risk analysis and corporate intrigue. But coming from a panicked janitor on a city sidewalk, it carried a singular, chilling weight. Holt's gaze sharpened. He glanced at the glossy black sedan, then back at Ethan's desperate expression. Protocol kicked in, swift and unyielding. "Ma'am, step back from the vehicle," he ordered, his tone brooking no argument. He signaled the second guard. "Secure the area. Call the police. Get the bomb squad. Full lockdown." Elise's jaw clenched. "A bomb? Holt, this is ridiculous. The man's clearly deranged." "Perhaps, ma'am," Holt said, his voice calm but firm as he guided her toward the building's marble entrance. "But we're not paid to gamble on perhaps." Within minutes, the street erupted into chaos, flashing red and blue lights, police cruisers barricading both ends of the block, tires screeching. A crowd formed, smartphones raised. Elise stood just inside the lobby, watching through the glass as her meticulously planned afternoon unraveled. Her driver, pale and shaken, stood behind a police line. Ethan Cole knelt on the sidewalk, hands cuffed, 2 officers looming over him. He no longer fought, his gaze fixed on the sedan, now isolated in the cordoned-off street like a relic of dread. He had stopped her. That was enough. But as the bomb squad arrived, clad in heavy gear, a sickening fear gripped him. He hadn't planned beyond this moment, beyond the desperate need to keep that car door shut. He thought of his daughter, Lila, sitting by their apartment window, her sketchbook open. He saw the faint tremble in her hand as she drew, a cruel marker of the disease eating away at her, cell by cell. He recalled the doctor's last visit, the soft, pitying tone. The progression is faster than we expected, Mr. Cole. We're running out of options. That wasn't true. There was an option. A cure, they called it. A breakthrough from Blake Industries. He'd seen the name on the torn documents he'd pieced together in the dim glow of a custodial closet, his hands shaking. He'd seen the trial's name, the lead researcher, the primary test subject, and his blood had frozen. A low metallic hum pulled him back. A bomb disposal robot rolled toward the sedan, its mechanical arm extending, its camera scanning the undercarriage. Elise watched, arms crossed, fury knotting in her chest. The meeting was at Stone Creek Airfield, the flight less than an hour away. She was meant to witness the culmination of 2 years of covert funding to see her brother again. She glanced at the janitor, his head bowed, shoulders sagging. He didn't look like a terrorist. He looked like a man sinking into despair. An hour later, the verdict came. The car was clean. Every panel, wire, and inch of the chassis had been checked. No bomb, no threat, nothing. The police tape was removed. The crowd dispersed. The bomb squad packed up. Only the fading echo of sirens and Elise Warrick's icy rage remained. The officers hoisted Ethan to his feet. "You're facing felony charges, buddy," one said. "False report, inciting panic. The DA's gonna love this." They were about to drag him to a cruiser when Elise stepped out of the lobby, her heels clicking with deliberate precision, like a metronome counting down. Holt moved to her side. "Ma'am, we'll take care of this." "No," she said, her voice low and dangerous. She stopped in front of Ethan, her gaze a tangible force. The officers hesitated, waiting. She studied this nobody, this shadow from the night shift who had derailed something irreplaceable. She didn't see madness. She saw a fear too precise, too real, and she needed to know why. With a glance, she dismissed the officers. They stepped back but stayed near. 5 seconds, Elise said, her voice a whisper carrying the weight of her authority. "Tell me why you ruined my day. If I don't believe you, I'll ensure the rest of your life is ruined." Ethan's heart pounded, each beat a pulse of dread. Her storm-gray eyes pierced him. This was the moment his life could end or veer into an unknown path. He couldn't reveal everything, the shredded papers, the late-night research, the tangled lies he'd barely begun to unravel. It would sound like lunacy. He needed one truth, one key to unlock her wrath and prove his actions weren't random. His throat was dry, the words clumsy. "Neurosynaptic decay syndrome," he said, the phrase awkward on his tongue. For the first time, Elise Warrick flinched, a subtle crack in her armor, a slight widening of her eyes, a tightening of her lips. To Ethan, who had bet everything on this moment, it was a chasm. He'd struck true. Her composure, a lifetime's fortress, sealed shut instantly. But the fracture had shown. She knew. She knew exactly what he meant. That obscure medical term was a secret buried under corporate safeguards and personal grief. Hearing it from a janitor on a city street was like a ghost's whisper. She turned to the officers, her voice shifting to command. "This is now a corporate security matter, internal. I'll handle Mr. Cole's debriefing. Release him to my security chief." The officer frowned. "Ma'am, he committed a crime." "We can't just—" "You can, and you will." Elise cut in, her tone final. "Warrick Enterprises won't press charges. We'll make a substantial donation to the Police Benevolent Fund to cover today's resources." Send the paperwork to my legal team. It was a transaction, not a request. The officer exchanged a glance with his partner, then nodded. The cuffs came off. Ethan rubbed his wrists, the raw marks a reminder of how close he'd come to ruin. Holt, Elise said without looking at him. Take Mr. Cole to the 50th floor conference room. He speaks to no one. He doesn't leave. Stay with him until I arrive. Yes, ma'am. Holt's hand rested lightly on Ethan's elbow, firm but not cruel. As they entered the tower's gleaming lobby, Ethan felt a new fear. He was no longer a citizen facing the law. He was a variable, a problem, a piece of corporate intelligence in Elise Warrick's hands. He wasn't sure which was worse. The 50th floor conference room was a glass cage suspended in the sky, 3 walls of windows framing the city's sprawling lights. The table, a slab of polished black marble, gleamed like a mirror. Ethan felt exposed, a specimen under scrutiny. Holt stood by the door, silent as stone. An hour passed, then another. Ethan's mind churned. He thought of Lila, alone in their apartment, likely watching cartoons, unaware of the storm her father had stumbled into. He needed to call her, to tell her he'd be late. He looked at Holt. Can I use my phone? My daughter. No, Holt said, his tone flat. The door opened. Elise swept in, her assistant trailing with a tablet. She dismissed the assistant with a nod, and the door clicked shut, leaving the 3 of them in the room's sterile hush. She didn't sit. She paced the room's edge, her heels silent on the thick carpet. Ethan stood, the grime of his uniform stark against the room's pristine elegance, the gap between their worlds palpable. Neurosynaptic decay syndrome, she began, her voice measured. It's exceptionally rare. Fewer than 2,000 cases globally. Tell me, Mr. Cole, how a floor cleaner became an expert in niche neurology. Ethan's hands shook. He clasped them behind his back. My daughter, Lila, diagnosed 6 months ago. The words hung in the air. Elise stopped pacing, facing him fully. He saw the conflict in her eyes, a CEO weighing a threat, a woman hearing her own buried pain. She's 7, Ethan continued, his voice thick with emotion. She loves drawing. Her hands shake now. The doctors say it's advancing, that there's no hope. A flicker crossed Elise's face, not pity, but a shared grim recognition. He pressed on. I know about the trial. The Warrick Program. You think you've found a cure. Elise's expression went blank. Your source of information interests me greatly. I found documents, Ethan said, avoiding the truth of the shredder bin. I saw the lead subject's name. Your brother, Owen Warrick. Her jaw tightened. You've been thorough, Mr. Cole. I was desperate, he shot back, fear fueling his courage. Wouldn't you be? A cure for what's killing my daughter is being developed in this building. I had to know. And what you know led you to cause a citywide panic and make me miss the most critical meeting of my life? Yes, Ethan said, stepping forward. Holt tensed. Because it's not a cure. It's a lie. The treatment doesn't work, it worsens the condition. I saw the hidden data, the mortality rates buried in the reports. They're not saving your brother, Ms. Warrick. They're exploiting him. Elise stared, her mind racing. Was this corporate sabotage? A rival's pawn? Or something more dangerous, a desperate father who'd uncovered a truth she'd refused to face? She'd invested $1 billion of her personal fortune in this project. Trusted Dr. Wren believed in the miracle because she had no choice. She sat at the table's head, gesturing for Ethan to sit opposite her, the distance between them vast. "You claim you have a daughter," she said, her tone shifting to strategy. "I'll need her medical records, her full diagnostic history, everything." Ethan's blood chilled. "Why?" "She's not part of this." "She's everything to this," Elise countered, her gaze unyielding. "You've made a bold claim, Mr. Cole, a dangerous one. I need to know if your story holds." She leaned forward, her voice low. "You're not leaving this building. My team will dissect every detail of your life, starting with your daughter. If you're truthful, we share a goal. If you're lying," she let the thread hang. Silence enveloped the glass room. Ethan sat, his reflection in the marble a weary stranger. He was a prisoner, not in a cell, but in a corporate monolith where he didn't belong. Every second was a second away from Lila. Was she home? Had Mrs. Carver given her the snack he'd left? Did she notice he hadn't called? The thought was a sharper pain than the ache in his wrists. 5 floors above, in her penthouse office, Elise moved with cold precision. The janitor's raw confession had pierced her defenses, stirring something she hadn't felt in years: doubt. "I want everything on Ethan Cole," she said into the intercom, her voice emotionless. "Employment, finances, social media, associates. I want to know what he eats. And I want his daughter's full medical file from St. Mary's Neurology Department. Use my name. 1 hour." "And Mr. Cole?" Holt's voice crackled. "He stays put. No calls, no contact. He's a black box. I need to know what's inside before I open it." Warrick Enterprises' machine turned on Ethan, its efficiency brutal. Within 45 minutes, encrypted files arrived on Elise's tablet. She skipped the financials, going straight to the medical report. Patient, Lila Cole, age 7. Diagnosis, neurosynaptic decay syndrome, stage 2. Elise's breath caught. The neurologist's notes were a clinical echo of her brother's reports: increased tremors, declining motor skills, aggressive prognosis. Ethan's story wasn't sand, it was stone. He wasn't lying. The realization brought no relief, only deeper dread. If he was right about his daughter, was he right about the cure? On the 50th floor, Ethan paced, anxiety clawing at him. He had to reach Lila. He approached Holt. "Please," he said, his voice breaking. "I need to call my daughter." "She be scared. She's just a kid." 2 minutes. "You can listen." Holt's face was stone, but he touched his earpiece. "Ma'am, Cole wants to call his daughter." Silence, then Elise's voice, sharp and precise. Speakerphone. Holt dialed the number Ethan provided. After 2 rings, Lila's small voice answered. "Daddy?" Relief flooded Ethan, dizzying. "Hey, sweet pea." "It's me. Daddy, where are you? You didn't call after school." He pressed his forehead against the glass window, the lie bitter. "I know, baby. I'm sorry. Work's crazy, a big pipe broke, and it's a mess. I'm working late to fix it." "Oh," she said softly. "Will you be home for bedtime stories?" The question stabbed him. "I'll try, Lila. Really hard. Did you eat your snack?" "Yeah, and I did my homework. I drew a castle for you. It's got a big gate to keep monsters out." Ethan choked back a sob, masking it as a cough. "That sounds perfect, sweet pea. Keep that gate strong." "Okay, Daddy, I love you." "I love you more, Lila. Be good for Mrs. Carver. I'll call soon." He hung up, trembling, sliding to the floor, his face in his hands, his strength crumbling. Unbeknownst to him, Elise, 5 floors above, heard every word. The sterile silence of her office filled with a father's breaking heart. She switched off the intercom. The call had done what no report could. It made Ethan Cole human. He wasn't a threat. He was a man fighting her same battle without her resources. She opened her secure terminal, scrolling past Dr. Wren's polished reports to the financials, lab equipment, chemicals, containment units, and a name she'd approved but never questioned, Solaris Solutions. A quick search revealed it was a shell company owned by Dr. Malcolm Holt, a biochemist disgraced for falsifying trial data. Wren had hidden this. Her blood chilled. She'd been blinded by hope, ignoring Wren's resistance to audits, his excuses about delays Owen couldn't afford. She looked at a photo of her and Owen on a sailboat, young and carefree, before the diagnosis shrank their world to hospital rooms. The janitor was right. They weren't saving Owen. They were using him. She called Wren's private line. He answered instantly, his voice smooth. "Elise, I was worried." "The meeting postponed," she cut in, her voice ice. "I'm reviewing Q3 expenditures." A payment to Solaris Solutions was flagged. "What's Dr. Malcolm Holt's role in the trial?" Silence. 3 seconds of deafening quiet, revealing his panic, his lie forming. "Malcolm Holt?" Wren stammered. "A clerical error. He's an old colleague, consulted for historical insight." "Historical insight on falsifying data?" Elise asked, her words sharp and lethal. Wren sputtered, indignant. "Falsifying?" "He was a victim of politics." "My integrity." "Your integrity is evidence now," Elise said, her voice absolute zero. "Don't touch the servers. Don't delete a file. If you go near my brother, I'll bury you under federal charges so fast you'll choke." She hung up, the silence ringing with finality. The enemy was exposed. She had to move faster. She took her private elevator to the 50th floor. Ethan was pacing, his face etched with exhaustion and fear. The dynamic had shifted. They were no longer accuser and suspect, but 2 people facing the same beast. "You were right," she said, her pride cracking as she slid her tablet across the table, showing Solaris Solutions and Dr. Holt's photo. "Wren is paying a disgraced researcher. He panicked when I confronted him. He lied." Ethan stared at the screen, then at her. Validation didn't ease his fear. It deepened it. "He'll move," Ethan whispered. "He'll speed up his plan." "Yes," Elise said, her voice tight. "The meeting I missed was to see the final results and authorize the last funds. Once he has the money, he and his data vanish. And my brother," she couldn't finish. Ethan recalled the shredded papers, a phrase clicking into place. "Post-transfer asset liquidation. Not stocks her brother." "He's going to kill him," Ethan said, the truth a blow, "to hide the fraud." Elise nodded, jaw tight. "We have hours, maybe less. Tell me everything, every word, every name." Ethan felt a spark of power. He wasn't helpless anymore. "First, promise me something." Elise raised an eyebrow. "My daughter," he said, unwavering. "If I help, you protect her, no matter what." Elise saw his resolve, a father's strength she was beginning to understand. "Your daughter's safety is absolute," she said, her tone softening. "If we expose this, I'll fund her treatment with the best team anywhere. My word, as a woman, not a CEO. It was enough. Ethan shared everything. Offshore accounts, mismatched chemical formulas, a transport company set for a 6 medical waste pickup. It's not waste, Elise whispered, pale. It's Owen. She sprang into action. Holt, she barked into her intercom. Ready the jet for Stone Creek Airfield. I need schematics for the West Hollow Research Center architecture, security, HVAC now. To Ethan, I can get marshals, but warrants take 12 hours. We don't have that. We go in tonight. They'll watch the main entrance, Ethan said. Gates, cameras, they'll expect a direct attack. Holt entered with a tablet, projecting the facility's blueprints. It was a fortress, one road, electrified fences, motion sensors. Impossible on this timeline, Holt said. Ethan studied the schematic, not the main structures, but the gaps. His finger landed on a small icon. What's that? Elise asked. Sanitation conduit, Ethan said, confidence growing. For lab runoff. Shielded, reinforced, it leads to a drainage culvert outside the fence. Holt frowned. It's 30 inches wide, tied to waste processing. Suicide, not if processing's offline, Ethan countered. The documents showed a maintenance window. Filtration shuts down 2 to 4 a.m. The lab's on standby to save power. Elise's eyes gleamed with respect. He saw the building's weaknesses like a janitor would. You're saying we enter through a sewer pipe? I'm saying, Ethan said, he'll watch the front for a CEO, not the drains for a janitor. Silence fell. The plan was mad, reckless, their only shot. Elise looked at Holt. Get the gear. We're going in. Mr. Cole's with us. The jet climbed into the night, a silent specter leaving the city behind. Ethan sat rigid in a luxurious seat, his janitor's uniform out of place. Elise, now a commander, studied schematics. Holt checked high-tech gear. The silence was thick with fear and hope. Ethan gripped the armrests, picturing Lila's castle drawing, its gate against monsters. Tonight, he was breaching that gate. Elise looked up. Tell me about her, she said softly. Lila, Ethan swallowed. She's bright, funny, asks endless questions. Loves yellow, like the sunrise. Wants to be an astronomer, name a star for her mom. His voice cracked, his late wife's memory a fresh wound. Elise didn't offer pity. My brother, Owen, she said quietly. Loved sailing. Said the ocean showed you the world's size and your problem's smallness. Last time we spoke, he wanted to feel the sun again, without fading. They weren't CEO and janitor. They were two people bound by the same cruel disease. An hour later, the jet's luxury was gone, replaced by a forest's damp chill. They moved silently, boots crunching leaves. The facility loomed, a dark shape against the stars, surrounded by razor-wire fences. Ethan led them to the culvert, a concrete tube hidden by weeds, reeking of chemicals. Holt cut through a rusted grate. 2:15 a.m., he whispered, distributing night vision goggles. Filtration's off for 105 minutes. In, find Owen. Out, no detours. The crawl was hellish tight, slick with foul residue, their breaths echoing in the green glow. It felt like a tomb. After an eternity, Holt stopped. We're here, he whispered. A steel grill blocked the way, beyond it a cavernous sublevel. Adrenaline surged. Holt prepared to pry the grill, then froze, raising a hand. He peered through, stiffening. "Problem," he breathed. "Lab's not on standby. 2 armed men." The whisper cut like glass. Ethan's blood froze. The plan assumed a quiet building. Instead, they'd entered a trap. Through the grill, he saw 2 men in dark gear, not guards but soldiers, carrying submachine guns, loading biohazard containers onto a pallet by a freight elevator. "There's staging," Holt whispered. "Loading out." Ethan's eyes fixed on the containers, dread rising. Transport and disposal, bio-waste class 7. The pickup wasn't at 6 on men. It was now. "That's it," Ethan whispered. "Wren moved the timeline after your call. Asset liquidation." Elise's face hardened. They weren't just seeking proof. They were stopping a murder. The clock was the elevator's closing doors. "We can't get through," Holt said. "They'd cut us down." Ethan closed his eyes, recalling the blueprints. "The lab supply dumbwaiter," he said. 20 yards left, north wall. Runs vertically through the facility. "It's across open floor," Holt countered. "Create a diversion," Elise ordered. "Something loud." Holt aimed an electromagnetic device. "I'll overload the east quarter's lighting grid." Flash and bang. 1 shot. 3, 2, 1 mark. A blinding flash and crack plunged the corridor into darkness. Alarms blared. "Go!" Holt kicked the grill open. They scrambled out, exposed. Elise pulled Ethan forward. "Move!" They ran, the 20 yards endless. Ethan's lungs burned as shouts echoed behind. He slammed into the wall, hands searching for the dumbwaiter door. Locked. A flashlight beam swept toward them. Holt pried the door open, shoving them inside the cramped, greasy box, pulling it shut as the beam hit. In darkness, Ethan hit the up button. The dumbwaiter lurched upward, chains screaming. "Medical wing, 3rd floor," Ethan whispered. It stopped. Holt cracked the door. A sterile hallway stretched out, a gurney pushed by 2 orderlies moving away, Dr. Wren beside it, checking his watch. A still figure lay under a sheet. Elise choked out, "Owen." She lunged, but Holt pulled her back. "We're exposed. They'll kill us." The gurney entered the freight elevator. Wren glanced back, a smug smile on his face, then stepped in. The doors closed with a thud. Elise slumped, sobbing. They were too late. "No," Ethan said firmly. "It's a decoy. Why move him openly? Why a sheet, not a body bag? He's creating a false trail." Elise's eyes sparked with hope. "He's still here." She pulled up the schematic. Secure, isolated, off camera. Ethan pointed to a grayed-out section. Surgical Theater 3, decommissioned. Old wing, outdated security, likely its own service elevator. Elise zoomed in. A thin line showed an isolated shaft. "A ghost exit," she whispered. The freight elevator chimed, Wren and the orderlies stepping out, gurney gone. "Now," Holt said. They slipped into the corridor, moving like shadows. The decommissioned wing was dim, ending at steel double doors with a glowing keypad. Holt examined it. "Magnetic seal encrypted. I can't crack it in time." Elise pressed her ear to the door, hearing a faint heart monitor. Owen was alive. Ethan spotted a dusty panel. "Emergency atmospheric purge control." "I can't open it," he said, "but I can make them open it. This purges the room's air, replacing it with saline nitrogen." They'd have 30 seconds to escape suffocation. Holt's eyes widened. Elise growled, "Wren is a monster. Let's see how he likes his lab turning on him." Ethan pried the panel open, revealing a red lever. He looked at Elise. She nodded. He pulled it. A deep hum vibrated, turbines roaring. A red light flashed above the door. The heart monitor shrieked, shouts and crashing equipment echoing inside. The keypad beeped frantically. Then the lock hissed, the door flying open. Wren stumbled out, gasping, followed by Dr. Malcolm Holt. Panicked. They saw Elise and froze. "You," Wren spat. Holt drew his pistol. Knees, hands on head. Malcolm Holt collapsed, whimpering. Wren knelt, seething. Elise rushed into the surgical theater, a sterile nightmare. Owen lay still, wired to screaming monitors. She whispered his name, afraid to touch him. Wren laughed, unhinged. Too late. "You've killed him." Elise ignored him, staring at the IVs. Ethan scanned them, noticing an unlabeled amber bag, hidden different. "That one," he said. "It's wrong." Elise ripped it out. The heart monitor's frantic beep slowed, stabilizing. Tears streamed down her face. Ethan had saved Owen. Heavy boots echoed. The armed cleaners were coming. Holt glanced at the door. "They're here." The door shuddered under blows. Ethan and Elise barricaded it with monitors, but it wouldn't hold. "Service elevator," Elise said, pointing to obsolete autoclaves. They found a narrow door with a manual latch. The main door buckled. Ethan opened the override panel-rusted wires, a manual lever. "It's offline." Holt shut the lock, revealing a dark shaft. "Manual crank," he said, pointing to a wheel. The main door burst open. Holt fired, dropping one man. "Get in," he roared. Ethan and Elise pushed Owen's gurney into the tight elevator. Wren and Malcolm Holt huddled inside. Holt held the room, bullets sparking around him. "No time," he shouted. "Get him out." Ethan hit the emergency descent button. The doors closed as Holt fought, his silhouette fading in red light. The elevator plummeted, sparks flying. They crashed at the bottom, groaning. Elise's flashlight revealed Owen, stable. Ethan forced the doors open to a subterranean loading dock. "Main exit's locked," he said, eyeing a truck. Wren pleaded, offering millions. Ethan's voice was ice. "You don't say her name." He smashed the truck's window, hot-wired it, and they loaded Owen. The truck smashed through the steel door, alarms blaring. A mile away, Elise called Director Brooks, demanding a federal team. Helicopters descended. At a blockade, medics took Owen. Agents arrested Wren and Malcolm Holt. Elise insisted Ethan stay with her. Days blurred in hospitals and debriefings. The raid exposed Wren's fraud. Holt survived, a hero. Elise kept her promise, founding the Warrick-Cole Foundation for a real cure, with Owen and Lila as first patients. 6 months later, under a spring oak, Ethan watched Lila run, steady and strong. Owen, with a cane, laughed with her. Elise joined Ethan on the porch, their bond forged in fire. Lila's new drawing showed a house, a tree, and 5 stick figures under a shining sun. They had found home.